Today, we're diving into the complete story of the 12 tribes of Israel, one of the most powerful and mysterious narratives in the story of the 12 tribes of Israel. This isn't just ancient history, it's a story full of intrigue, prophecy, and revelations that still impact us today. Who were these 12 tribes, and why are they so important? What promises did God make to them, and what became of their descendants? Have they really vanished from history, or could their legacy still be hidden among us today? And most importantly, what does this all mean for us now? In this video, we're going to uncover their origins, their dramatic journey across the ancient world, and the incredible prophecies about their future. Stay with us until the very end, because we're not just exploring history, we're connecting it to our lives today. You'll discover how the story of the 12 tribes holds keys to understanding God's plan for humanity, and how their legacy might be more relevant to your life than you ever imagined. If you're curious about the mysteries of the Bible and love uncovering hidden truths, then this video is for you. By the end, you'll have a clearer understanding of God's promises, His faithfulness, and how these ancient tribes still speak to us today. Don't forget to support us by hitting that subscribe button, liking the video, and ringing the notification bell so you won't miss any of our future deep dives into biblical insights. Your support helps us reach more people with these powerful messages. Now, let's begin this complete exploration of the history, prophecy, and enduring faith surrounding the 12 tribes of Israel. To understand the origins of the 12 tribes of Israel, we must begin with the story of Isaac, the long-awaited son of Abraham. Isaac's birth is a pivotal moment in the Bible, as it marks the beginning of the fulfillment of God's covenant with Abraham, a covenant that would have profound implications for the future of Israel and the entire world. In Genesis 17:19, God makes a remarkable promise to Abraham. Then God said, "No, Sarah, your wife shall bear you a son, and you shall call his name Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his descendants after him." This promise is extraordinary not only because of its content, but also because of the circumstances surrounding it. Abraham was 100 years old, and Sarah was 90, well beyond the age of childbearing. Yet God's promise defied natural laws, demonstrating His sovereignty and power. As we see in Genesis 18:14, God reassures Abraham and Sarah with a rhetorical question. "Is anything too hard for the Lord? At the appointed time I will return to you according to the time of life, and Sarah shall have a son." This question underscores the central theme of God's omnipotence, His ability to fulfill His promises regardless of human limitations. Isaac's birth is not just a miraculous event, it is the cornerstone of the covenant God made with Abraham. This covenant, first articulated in Genesis 12:2-3, includes several key promises. "I will make you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse him who curses you, and in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed." These promises are further expanded in Genesis 15:5, where God emphasizes the countless descendants Abraham will have. "Then he brought him outside and said, 'Look now toward heaven and count the stars, if you are able to number them.' And he said to him, 'So shall your descendants be.'" Isaac's birth is the first step in making these promises a reality. Through Isaac, the lineage of Abraham would continue, leading to the formation of a great nation, the nation of Israel. Isaac's significance is further highlighted when God tests Abraham's faith by asking him to sacrifice Isaac, his only son, in Genesis 22. This event, known as the binding of Isaac, is a profound test of faith and obedience. In Genesis 22:12, after Abraham demonstrates his willingness to obey God even to the point of sacrificing his son, God intervenes and reiterates His covenant. "Do not lay your hand on the lad or do anything to him. For now I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me." This moment solidifies the covenant, showing that Isaac is indeed the chosen heir, through whom God's promises would be fulfilled. Isaac's role as the father of Jacob, who would later be renamed Israel, cements his place in biblical history. Jacob's 12 sons would become the patriarchs of the 12 tribes of Israel, each tribe playing a unique role in the unfolding story of God's people. Isaac's life serves as a bridge between the initial promises made to Abraham and their realization in the formation of the 12 tribes. His story is a powerful reminder of God's faithfulness and the fulfillment of His promises, no matter how impossible they may seem from a human perspective. Now let's explore the life of Isaac's son Jacob, who plays a pivotal role in the establishment of the 12 tribes of Israel, a role that is both divinely orchestrated and deeply rooted in the promises made to his grandfather Abraham. The story of Jacob begins with a prophecy that foreshadows the destiny of two nations even before his birth. In Genesis 25, when Rebekah, Isaac's wife, is pregnant with twins, the Lord reveals a profound truth. 2 nations are in your womb, 2 peoples shall be separated from your body. One people shall be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger. Genesis 25:23. This prophecy sets the stage for the rivalry between Jacob and Esau, which would have lasting implications. Although Esau is the firstborn, it is Jacob, the younger twin, who is destined to receive the birthright and the blessing, a reversal of the traditional custom of primogeniture. This reversal is a common theme in the Bible, where God often chooses the younger, the weaker, or the unexpected to fulfill His purposes, as seen earlier in the story of Isaac himself. Jacob's journey is marked by significant events that lead to the establishment of the 12 tribes. One key moment is when Jacob, taking advantage of Esau's hunger, persuades Esau to sell him his birthright for a bowl of stew, Genesis 25:29-34. Later, with the help of his mother Rebekah, Jacob deceives his father Isaac into giving him the blessing intended for Esau, Genesis 27. This blessing is crucial because it confers not only material wealth, but also spiritual authority and the continuation of God's covenant with Abraham. The significance of Jacob's blessing is underscored in Genesis 27:28-29. Therefore may God give you of the dew of heaven, of the fatness of the earth, and plenty of grain and wine. Let people serve you, and nations bow down to you. Be master over your brethren, and let your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be everyone who curses you, and blessed be those who bless you. This blessing sets Jacob apart as the inheritor of the covenant promises, a role that will shape the future of his descendants. As Jacob flees from Esau's wrath and embarks on a journey to his uncle Laban's house, he has a profound encounter with God. In Genesis 28:12-15, Jacob dreams of a ladder reaching to heaven, with angels ascending and descending on it. God stands above the ladder and reaffirms the covenant made with Abraham. I am the Lord God of Abraham your father, and the God of Isaac. The land on which you lie, I will give to you and your descendants. Also, your descendants shall be as the dust of the earth. You shall spread abroad to the west and the east, to the north and the south, and in you and in your seed all the families of the earth shall be blessed. This divine encounter is significant because it marks a turning point in Jacob's life, solidifying his role as the carrier of the covenant. Jacob vows to serve the Lord, recognizing the significance of the promises made to him. Jacob's life continues with many trials and blessings, including his marriages to Leah and Rachel, Laban's daughters. Over time, Jacob fathers 12 sons by his wives Leah and Rachel and their maidservants Zilpah and Bilhah. These sons are listed in Genesis 35:22-26. Now the sons of Jacob were 12. The sons of Leah were Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. The sons of Rachel were Joseph and Benjamin. The sons of Bilhah, Rachel's maidservant, were Dan and Naphtali. And the sons of Zilpah, Leah's maidservant, were Gad and Asher. These were the sons of Jacob, who were born to him in Padan Aram. Each of these sons would go on to become the progenitors of the 12 tribes of Israel. These tribes are not just family divisions. They represent the fulfillment of God's promise to Abraham that his descendants would become a great nation, as numerous as the stars in the sky and the sand on the seashore. Genesis 22:17. Moreover, Jacob's journey is not just about the establishment of the 12 tribes, but also about his own transformation. In Genesis 32, as Jacob prepares to reunite with Esau, he has a mysterious encounter with a divine being, often understood to be an angel or even God himself. Jacob wrestles with this being throughout the night and refuses to let go until he receives a blessing. This encounter results in Jacob being renamed Israel, which means he who struggles with God, or God prevails. Genesis 32:28. This new name signifies Jacob's transformation and the establishment of his identity as the father of the nation of Israel. The birth of the 12 tribes through Jacob's sons is not merely a biological occurrence, it is the unfolding of God's redemptive plan. These tribes will play critical roles in the history of Israel, from the exodus out of Egypt to the settlement in the Promised Land, and their legacies continue to influence the world to this day. The story of Jacob and the birth of the 12 tribes is a testament to God's faithfulness in fulfilling his promises despite human flaws and failures, and it sets the stage for the rest of Israel's history. Now, let's further discover the covenant renewed and the establishment of the tribes as Jacob, now renamed Israel, approaches the end of his life. He gathers his 12 sons to bless them. These blessings, recorded in Genesis 49, are not just paternal words of encouragement. They are prophetic utterances that outline the future destinies of each of the 12 tribes of Israel. This moment is critical because it renews the covenant God made with Abraham and Isaac, now passing it down to the heads of the tribes that will carry Israel's legacy forward. Jacob's blessings are deeply symbolic, each one tailored to the character and future of the son it addresses. For instance, when Jacob speaks to Reuben, his firstborn, he addresses both Reuben's potential and his failures. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might and the beginning of my strength, the excellency of dignity and the excellency of power. Unstable as water, you shall not excel, because you went up to your father's bed, then you defiled it. He went up to my couch. Genesis 49:3-4. Reuben's indiscretion with Bilhah, Jacob's concubine, Genesis 35:22, cost him the preeminence usually reserved for the firstborn. This loss of status would impact the tribe of Reuben, which would later become less prominent among the tribes of Israel. In contrast, when Jacob blesses Judah, the fourth son, the tone is markedly different. Jacob's words to Judah are rich with imagery and significance. Judah, you are he whom your brothers shall praise. Your hand shall be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's children shall bow down before you. Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, you have gone up. He bows down. He lies down as a lion. And as a lion, who shall rouse him? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh comes, and to him shall be the obedience of the people. Genesis 49:8-10. This blessing is monumental because it designates Judah as the tribe from which leadership and kingship will emerge. The reference to the scepter in Shiloh foreshadows the coming of a ruler from the line of Judah, ultimately fulfilled in King David and, more importantly, in Jesus Christ, the Messiah. This prophetic blessing establishes Judah as the royal tribe, a role that would shape the history of Israel and the world. Another significant blessing is given to Joseph, Jacob's favored son. Joseph's blessing is one of prosperity and protection, acknowledging his suffering and his rise to power in Egypt. Joseph is a fruitful bough by a well. His branches run over the wall. The archers have bitterly grieved him, shot at him, and hated him. But his bow remained in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty God of Jacob. From there is the shepherd, the stone of Israel, by the God of your father who will help you, and by the Almighty who will bless you with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lies beneath, blessings of the breasts and of the womb. Genesis 49:22-26. Joseph's descendants, through his sons Ephraim and Manasseh, would inherit a double portion of the land, as Ephraim and Manasseh were adopted by Jacob as his own sons. Genesis 48:5-6. This double portion is significant because it reflects Joseph's elevated status and the continued favor of God upon him and his lineage. These blessings also carry implications for the future roles of the tribes in the history of Israel. For example, Levi, who along with Simeon was chastised for his violent actions in Shechem, Genesis 34, is later redeemed when the tribe of Levi is chosen to serve as priests in the tabernacle, Exodus 32:26 through 29. Despite the rebuke in Genesis 49:5 through 7, Levi's descendants are given a sacred role, demonstrating that God's purposes can transcend human failings. Each blessing in Genesis 49 not only reflects the character and actions of the sons, but also prophesies the future of their descendants. These prophetic words lay the foundation for the roles that the tribes would play in Israel's history, from the conquest of the Promised Land to the establishment of the monarchy and beyond. Jacob's blessings culminate in a reaffirmation of God's covenant. As he blesses his sons, Jacob is not just speaking as a father. He is acting as a patriarch, passing on the divine promises made to Abraham and Isaac. This moment is a renewal of the covenant, ensuring that God's promises will continue to be fulfilled through the 12 tribes. Moreover, these blessings have lasting significance. The tribes, each with their own strengths and weaknesses, contribute to the unfolding story of Israel. For instance, the tribe of Judah produces kings and ultimately the Messiah. The tribe of Levi serves in the priesthood, mediating between God and the people. The tribe of Joseph, through Ephraim and Manasseh, becomes numerous and influential, especially in the northern kingdom of Israel. In this way, the blessings of Jacob not only shaped the immediate futures of his sons, but also established the framework for the development of the nation of Israel. The covenant is renewed, and the foundation of the 12 tribes is solidified, ensuring that the promises made by God to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob will be carried forward through their descendants. The history of the 12 tribes of Israel takes a significant turn following the death of Jacob. After the Israelites' dramatic exodus from Egypt under the leadership of Moses, the 12 tribes begin their journey to the Promised Land, a land that had been promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This journey, which is fraught with challenges and trials, is a crucial chapter in the story of the 12 tribes and their relationship with God. The 12 tribes are central to the unfolding narrative of the Israelite nation. Each tribe, named after one of Jacob's sons, plays a distinct role in the life of the community. The Book of Numbers provides detailed accounts of how the tribes were organized, their responsibilities, and their encampments during the wilderness journey. The tribes were arranged around the tabernacle with specific roles assigned to each group. This organization was not arbitrary. It was designed to reflect the order and purpose that God had for his people. The tribe of Levi, for example, was set apart to serve in the tabernacle, overseeing the sacred duties of worship and sacrifice. The journey to the Promised Land was marked by both faith and disobedience. The tribes often struggled with their faith, wavering between trust in God's promises and the temptation to rebel against his commands. The most notable instance of this struggle is found in the story of the 12 spies sent to scout the land of Canaan. 10 of the spies returned with a report that instilled fear and doubt in the hearts of the Israelites, leading to a rebellion against Moses and Aaron. Numbers 13-14. Only Joshua and Caleb, representing the tribes of Ephraim and Judah respectively, demonstrated faith in God's promise to give them the land. As a result, the entire generation, except for Joshua and Caleb, was condemned to wander in the wilderness for 40 years. Despite the challenges, God remained faithful to his covenant. Under Joshua's leadership, the Israelites finally entered the Promised Land. The land was divided among the 12 tribes, each receiving a specific inheritance as outlined in the book of Joshua. The division of the land was a fulfillment of God's promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Each tribe's inheritance was carefully allotted, with boundaries established for their territories. This division not only provided the tribes with a homeland, but also reinforced their identity as God's chosen people, bound by the covenant and the laws given through Moses. The period of the Judges followed the conquest of Canaan. During this time, the 12 tribes functioned as a loose confederation with no central authority. The book of Judges recounts a cycle of disobedience, oppression, repentance, and deliverance. The tribes frequently turned away from God, adopting the practices of the surrounding nations and falling into idolatry. In response, God raised up judges, charismatic leaders who delivered the Israelites from their enemies and called them back to covenant faithfulness. Figures like Deborah, Gideon, and Samson played crucial roles in this period, demonstrating both the strengths and weaknesses of the tribes. The tribal confederation eventually gave way to the establishment of a monarchy. The people of Israel, desiring to be like the other nations, demanded a king. God granted their request, and Saul, from the tribe of Benjamin, was anointed as the first king of Israel. Saul's reign, however, was marked by disobedience and ultimately ended in failure. God then chose David from the tribe of Judah to be king. David's reign represented a turning point in the history of Israel. He united the 12 tribes, established Jerusalem as the capital, and brought the Ark of the Covenant to the city, making it the religious and political center of the nation. David's son, Solomon, succeeded him and expanded the kingdom, building the temple in Jerusalem, a permanent dwelling place for God's presence. The temple became the focal point of Israel's worship, and Solomon's reign was a time of great prosperity. However, after Solomon's death, the United Kingdom was divided into two: the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah. The northern kingdom consisted of 10 tribes, while the southern kingdom was made up of Judah and Benjamin. The division of the kingdom had profound consequences for the 12 tribes. The northern kingdom, with its capital in Samaria, quickly fell into idolatry under the leadership of Jeroboam, who established alternative places of worship to prevent the people from going to Jerusalem. The southern kingdom, centered in Jerusalem, retained the temple and the Davidic line of kings. The prophets, such as Elijah, Amos, Hosea, Isaiah, and Jeremiah, were sent by God to call both kingdoms back to faithfulness, warning them of the consequences of their disobedience. The northern kingdom of Israel was eventually conquered by the Assyrian Empire in 722 BCE, leading to the exile of its people. The 10 tribes of the northern kingdom were dispersed, and their identity became obscured over time, giving rise to the concept of the lost tribes of Israel. The southern kingdom of Judah managed to survive for over a century longer, but was ultimately conquered by the Babylonian Empire in 586 BCE. The temple was destroyed, and the people of Judah were taken into exile in Babylon. Despite the exile, the prophets continued to speak of hope and restoration. The books of Ezekiel and Isaiah contain powerful visions of a future regathering of the 12 tribes and the restoration of Israel as a united people under God's rule. Ezekiel's vision of the Valley of Dry Bones, Ezekiel 37, symbolizes the resurrection of the nation, while Isaiah speaks of a future where all the tribes will return to the land and be reunited, Isaiah 11:12-13. The return from exile, which began under the Persian king Cyrus, saw the people of Judah return to Jerusalem and rebuild the temple. This period, known as the Second Temple period, was marked by efforts to restore the covenant community and re-establish the worship of God according to the laws given through Moses. While the identity of the 10 northern tribes remained largely lost, the tribes of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi formed the core of the restored community, with some individuals from other tribes possibly returning as well. The New Testament provides further insight into the enduring significance of the 12 tribes. Jesus, who was born from the tribe of Judah, is portrayed as the fulfillment of the promises made to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and David. He is the long-awaited Messiah, the one through whom all the families of the earth would be blessed, Genesis 12:3. Jesus' ministry was centered in Israel, and his 12 disciples symbolically represented the 12 tribes, pointing to the restoration and redemption of Israel through him. In the book of Revelation, the vision of the 144,000 sealed from all the tribes of Israel, Revelation 7:4-8, signifies the spiritual restoration of the 12 tribes. This vision emphasizes that, despite their historical dispersal and apparent loss, the tribes are still part of God's redemptive plan. The New Jerusalem, described in Revelation 21, has 12 gates, each bearing the name of one of the 12 tribes of Israel, symbolizing the fulfillment of God's promises and the unity of his people in the new creation. The story of the 12 tribes of Israel is a story of promise, struggle, failure, and redemption. It is a testament to God's faithfulness in the face of human weakness. The tribes, each with their unique characteristics and destinies, played vital roles in the unfolding narrative of God's plan for humanity. From the promises made to Abraham to the prophetic visions of restoration, the 12 tribes are a powerful reminder that God's purposes cannot be thwarted by human failings. His covenant is everlasting, and His promises are sure. As we conclude this exploration of the 12 tribes of Israel, we are reminded that their story is not just ancient history. It is a living testimony to God's faithfulness and His desire to bring all people into a covenant relationship with Him. The lessons from the lives of the patriarchs, the judges, the kings, and the prophets are as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. They call us to trust in God's promises, to walk in obedience, and to be part of His redemptive work in the world. The 12 tribes of Israel also represent a microcosm of human nature. Their strengths, weaknesses, triumphs, and failures are reflections of the human condition. Each tribe had its own identity, challenges, and role within the larger community of Israel. This diversity within unity is a powerful illustration of how God works through individuals and communities to accomplish His purposes. Even in times of rebellion and disobedience, God's grace remained evident, and His plans for restoration never wavered. The prophets of the Old Testament often used the imagery of the 12 tribes to convey messages of both judgment and hope. The book of Hosea, for example, uses the relationship between God and Israel as a metaphor for a broken marriage, highlighting Israel's unfaithfulness, but also God's enduring love and desire for reconciliation. Hosea's message to the northern kingdom of Israel is a poignant reminder of the consequences of turning away from God, but it also contains a promise of healing and restoration. I will heal their backsliding. I will love them freely, for my anger has turned away from him. Hosea 14:4. Similarly, the prophet Amos speaks to the social injustices and spiritual corruption that plagued the northern kingdom. His call for justice and righteousness, but let justice run down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream, Amos 5:24, is a timeless reminder of God's desire for His people to reflect His character in their relationships with one another. The message of Amos, though directed at the northern tribes, resonates across generations, emphasizing that true worship of God must be accompanied by ethical behavior and a commitment to justice. The southern kingdom of Judah, too, faced its own challenges. The prophet Isaiah, who ministered during the reigns of several kings of Judah, spoke of both judgment and hope. Isaiah's prophecies about the coming Messiah are some of the most well-known and cherished passages in the Bible. His words in Isaiah 9:6-7, "For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government will be upon his shoulder. And his name will be called Wonderful, Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace," point to the future hope of a restored kingdom under the rule of a righteous king. This king, born from the line of David and the tribe of Judah, would bring salvation not only to Israel, but to all nations. The exile of the northern and southern kingdoms was a pivotal moment in the history of the 12 tribes. It was a time of great loss, but it also became a period of introspection, transformation, and renewal. The prophet Jeremiah, who witnessed the fall of Jerusalem, spoke words of comfort and hope to the exiles. "For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, says the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you a future and a hope." Jeremiah 29:11. Jeremiah's message was a reminder that God's plans for His people were not over, even in exile.